Welcome everyone. In today's webinar, we will give you an overview of new functionality introduced with the latest version 24.06 of RapidAuthor for Teamcenter. Similar to our last webinar, we'd like to follow the journey an author takes while creating technical documents. As you know, your workflow typically starts with preparing the data and your tools. Then we move to authoring itself, split into general authoring improvements first, and then 2D related features. Afterwards, we go to the publishing and viewing of your created content. And finally, we will talk about automation and functionality related to our Teamcenter integration. Let's start with preparation, specifically with data import. In 24.06, we have implemented a couple of improvements to the way you work with DPL tables. Based on customer request, it is now possible to update the DPL table of your IPC from an external Excel file like this one. Depending on metadata and settings, the data can be copied to the existing DPL rows or new DPL rows will be added. We have an example project here and we'll make use of that new feature. First, you select the Excel file and perform the import. That's going to be quick. And as you can see, the additional information from the Excel file has been imported to the DPL table. By the way, for more information on this feature and on many others, you can use the new context help. In this case, it will take you to the documentation of the Rapid Generator Excel plugin, where you can get help relevant to what you are currently doing. I will also get back to the context help again a bit later. Now, often available metadata are not enough to arrange and merge your DPL rows. Previously, you could calculate new metadata using regular expressions, but merging DPL rows was only possible when metadata already existed in the source file. With 24.06, you can calculate metadata using regular expressions and then merge DPL rows as needed. I'll illustrate this with an example. In the middle right here, you can see the current DPL table. It has only one row for the 6 wheels of the example truck. Let's first add a new custom metadata and we'll call it location. And now we will add regular expressions for left and right. Based on this regular expression, our parts will be matched to the location left or right, allowing us to separate the 6 wheels into 2 different groups depending on their location. If we now merge DPL rows based on metadata and select part number and location, we will get 2 rows for the wheels, one with 3 wheels from the left side of the truck and one with 3 wheels from the right. In the metadata on the bottom right, you can also see the location we had defined earlier. (24.06) now also supports the import of geometry in the XDB-rep format through RapidJT component. This was previously only available in Rapid Data Converter. One of the effects is that we can now read surface control lines from JT, and the surface quality of the geometry depends on your setting in the import profile. You can see the difference in this illustration. In the middle, we see the results of an import with RapidJT component in the previous version of RapidAuthor for Teamcenter. And on the right, you can see the much improved result with 24.06, which is now quite similar to the quality with Rapid Data Converter, which you can see on the left side. We have also made it much more convenient to configure Bob viewpoints. You can select from a predefined list. You can probably see that in the drop-down box in the screenshot. You can set to camera or go to a defined camera. And as in most releases, we follow industry trends regarding cut data and have added support for additional cut data file formats with Rapid Data Converter and RapidJT components in this release. As usual, for a complete list of supported formats, please check out our full release notes. Finally, let's have a look at a couple of selected smaller features that were implemented based on feedback directly from our customers. First, we now provide protection of PMI objects from section planes imported from JT model views. Then it is now possible to select the viewpoint type, perspective or orthographic, while importing procedures for manufacturing process planner and service planner. And also related to the service planner imports, we can now display images associated with activity and work card. And finally, you can now import all types of PMI supported by JT Open Toolkit version 11.5. Now, in our second section, General Authoring, we will first discuss authoring improvements on a high level, and then we will look specifically at 2D related features. We will start with one of our focus areas for 2406, performance. Now, performance is always a priority for us, and we will do smaller or bigger changes pretty much in every release. Sometimes this happens in the background, but this time it is definitely worth a mention. Loading, saving, and publishing projects, as well as operations on a large number of items, will now take significantly less time than before. It will, of course, depend on your project. So I'm a bit careful with sharing our internal testing results because there can be many reasons for shorter or longer import times and publishing times. But without cherry picking a specific project, our tests with the generic IPC specification have shown a roughly halved project opening time, and the publishing was 3 to 5 times faster compared to the previous version. Again, your results may and will vary, but many of you will see quite a very significant improvement and a much smoother workflow. We are, as always, very interested in your feedback. So if you work with this new version, what has improved, what hasn't, in what situations do you see performance improvements, where do you not see any, please let us know. Now, let's have a look at a couple of selected features for general authoring. First, let's talk about section planes. As an introduction, section planes, as you might know, are widely used to demonstrate the internal structure of your model. You can see the insides of our demo pump in this example. However, in many cases, you will want to protect some parts from sectioning. Previously, you had to use a special item for this purpose. This worked, but it resulted in changes in the item tree hierarchy and complications in data updates. To allow for a much easier handling of this situation, you can now easily add a flag to each item or assembly for protection. The result is the same, the item is protected, but there are no more changes in the model hierarchy. The protection is represented in the item tree on the left with a small shield icon. And we have also provided a convenient switch to remove the protection from the whole selected assembly. Next, we have improvements for the linking of catalog pages. Linking pages is an essential part of IPC authoring, and up until now, the author had to use the item number of the target page. That works, but it is not very convenient. In 2406, you can now link from the DPL table to a page by selecting the target from a list of available pages. We highlighted that in red here in the screenshot. This drop-down list is generated automatically for you and is sorted in alphabetical order. This feature is available in the generic IPC specification component, and we hope it makes the linking process much quicker and easier for you. In previous versions of RapidAuthor, only the headlight was used to set the lighting for your 3D scene. That works well in most cases, but in some it resulted in 3D models looking too light or even flat. With 2406, both the author and the end user can select the best suited combination of light sources for an optimal appearance of the 3D model. We have added 6 new lighting schemes and indicate the locations of the lights in a small pictogram to make it easier to quickly recognize the differences. You can see the pictogram right of the drop-down list. All light sources, by the way, are directed towards the center of the 3D scene. Now, the author can define the standard lighting scheme for the publication in the Publish options. Let's have a look at the differences in the publication. As mentioned, in addition to the selected lighting scheme the author had chosen, the lighting can also be changed on the fly in the publication by the end user. By the way, we have already updated some of the publications on our demo page. So if you want to have a look and play around with the new lighting schemes yourself to get a feel for them, please visit demo.cortona3d.com. The updated demos, amongst others, include our main motorcycle demo and the pump. 2406 also brings quite a few updates specifically for S1000D authors, which has been one of our focus areas for this release. Let's go through a couple of examples. If the user wants to display image, video, audio as inline entity directly in the document window, as you can see here, rather than in a separate window, this is now possible through a setting for the multimedia object element. And we can now also display 2 images or other media at the same time in our interactive 3D publications. This is how that looks like. You can see a 2D illustration on the bottom right with the 3D animation for the current step on top of it. We have quite a few very interesting use cases in the pipeline that will be based on this small feature, and more information is coming soon. With this release, Rapid Text now supports the schedule schema. The schema is used to capture and represent maintenance planning information in data modules such as maintenance task lists, time limits, maintenance allocation, and other info. And the schema can be authored in standalone and Teamcenter modes. The output is provided in the format of a table. Next, we have a new UI for HTML publications that allow the user to navigate within fault isolation procedures. What this allows you to do is select from specific options or outcomes for each step of the procedure. And to wrap up this section, here's a short, actually rather long overview of some additional improvements to the 3D authoring process that we wanted to give you a heads up for. Control authority information is now displayed in HTML and PDF publications in accordance with S1000D 5.0 requirements. Next, hotspots of graphic objects can now contain references to other objects. And we now also allow for applicability filtering of S1000D IPC data modules in scope of the publication module. And in addition to other types of data modules, the S1000D IPD data modules can also be filtered by product when publishing. Then you can now set the precise duration of a procedure, not only via the existing slider that you might have used in the past, but you can also set the exact value directly. And as you might know, you can already automatically reverse the order of elements in DITA and S1000D documents to create assembly instructions from disassembly instructions and vice versa. We now not only reverse the 3D animation steps, but also automate the reversal of the corresponding entries in your documents. That part was missing in the past. And we have further improvements to this feature already planned. And lastly, as you have already seen in one of the videos earlier today, Context Help can now finally be launched from all application windows for faster access to required information in the help documents. After this overview for general authoring and 3D changes, let's have a look at what's new for 2D. For all of these new features, we worked in very close contact with our customers. With 2406, you can generate 2D images in RapidAuthor in model coordinates so that 2D images can be easily combined with each other in 2D Editor Pro without manual scaling and laborious positioning. Such images should be created in orthographic projection with the same camera orientation. We will just demonstrate the process on one of our simple models. First, we select the new option, Fixed Scale and Origin for Orthographic Projection. And now we generate 3 images from 3 different IPC pages and then merge them in 2D Editor Pro, so you can see the full process. Now we paste them over to 2D Editor Pro. And you can see that all images have the same scale in comparison with the real size of the 3D model. And we can now easily change the scale for all images at once or combine them by specifying the same origin in the property inspector. Now they perfectly overlap, and here we can adjust the scaling for all of them. Next, we have improvements for the editing of parallel paths. If you haven't used that, let's have a look. A parallel path can now be easily edited with your mouse, in addition to previously supported parametric creation. This will simplify the drawing of complex cable paths. First, you draw the trajectory. Then you can add parallel paths to it. And now you can quickly modify the distance between them just directly with your mouse. As a last step for this example, we just remove unnecessary lines. And your cable is ready. Now, if you need to edit ellipse segments, you can now do that independently, but still keep the segments as a single ellipse object for further modification. Now, what does that mean? Let me show you. Previously, ellipses were split into independent pieces after removing a segment. That makes sense, right? If I remove part of an ellipse, it's not an ellipse anymore. Well, yes, but that makes it quite difficult working with the new object. We now have a solution to make that much easier. This example shows a simple case where an ellipse is partially overlapped by another object, removing part of the original ellipse. If we move the ellipse now, you can see that it is still handled as one object. The same editing options are available for every segment of the ellipse, and you can still change the properties of the ellipse, such as color or line width, etc. Now, if we look at a slightly more complicated example, here the original ellipse is split and overlaid in different places. If we make cuts to the original ellipse, you can see on the top right that we end up with 4 segments. Now, instead of deleting as before, let's just change the style of the line for the new ellipse segment. Achieving this result would have been quite complicated before, and now it should be easy and straightforward. And if you use magnifiers in your 2D images, we now have new predefined shapes for you. In addition to the previously supported circle shape, you can now also choose a square or a rectangular shape with square or rounded corners. You can see the new supported shapes on this screenshot. You can even use a magnifier pointer with tail form, which is widely used in illustrations. And of course, you can always change the location, the curvature, and the thickness. Now, as another part of our performance improvements, the resolution of raster images is now reduced on the fly during zooming or similar manipulations. You will likely not notice this change, only the effect on performance, as it helps significantly with excessive CPU and memory consumption and will enable faster authoring. Again, specifically related to performance improvements, please feel free to contact us and let us know if you feel the difference and where it works and where it doesn't help much. We are also working on further development of our raster editor. As a small addition here, the lasso tool is now available with polygonal and with freeform selection, highlighted in blue. Now, let's also look at a couple of publication features. We'll start with catalogs. In 2406, parts catalogs created with the generic IPC specification now support filtering DPL tables by applicability. To show you, let's first complete a simple new applicability table. Once you have set that up, you can populate the applies to column of the DPL table with appropriate values. You can also specify the legend that will be displayed below the DPL table in the publication. Let's add an explanation here. You can see that in the publication in a second. Now, the resulting publication will contain a drop-down box, top right, with the available applicable to entries. And the DPL table will show the new applies to column. When you have a large parts catalog with lots of pages and lots of identical parts used in various assemblies, it is often quite important to know how many identical objects are used in a particular assembly or subassembly. To help with this, we have created a new publish option. It automatically calculates the quantity of visible objects linked to the DPL row of a particular APC page. As you can see in the screenshot, the model shown on the left has two groups of two pretty much identical washes. And the difference is quite difficult to see for us in 3D, but the DPL table counts them correctly, highlighted in yellow here. Now, for our last section today, we'll have a look at improvements to the Teamcenter connection. First, Cortana 3D commands are now available from the native Service Plan UI in Active Workspace. With various changes in Active Workspace, this didn't work very reliably so far. What this means is that Service Planner is now fully supported via Active Workspace, and of course, we support DITA and S1000D. We have added convenient search queries for S1000D and DITA objects in Active Workspace. These are equivalent to the search windows in Cortana 3D Technical Publications Enrich clients for S1000D. And here you can search for DITA topics, S1000D data modules, and various info codes. We now also support managing customized S1000D publications in RapidAuthor client in Active Workspace. That means you now have the ability to create and publish a PDF book considering the selected products from the PCD data module. And here are a couple of additional features that are quite difficult to show in a video or a screenshot, but we didn't want to keep them from you. When performing an export of S1000D administrative objects, applicability and CIR data module can now also be exported. Next, we have improved the installation of RapidAuthor connector for Active Workspace. What that means is the installation is no longer requires the manual handling of files. Instead, installation is done via TM or Deployment Center, and therefore is less prone to errors from manual installation. We have also increased the responsiveness of the RapidAuthor Administrator UI when working with remote servers. This is quite relevant for connections to servers on another continent and improves cloud connections in general. We had a couple of requests and discussions with our customers about that. We have also numerous improvements for the import of S1000D data modules. And finally, you can now use custom DITA Open Toolkit plugins for publishing DITA projects to PDF. That's it for a quick overview of the main functionality in our 24.6 release. As always, this was a selection of features that we received requests for, and we have many more small changes and improvements for you. For the full list, as always, please refer to the release notes. And if you want to see some of the publication features in action, please feel free to check out our demo archive at demo.cortana3d.com. And now let's have a look at your questions. I will just move the Teams Q&A window over here so it's visible in the recording. That's not ideal. We are collecting improvement ideas for Microsoft already. So first question, let me just read it and the team will discuss. By the way, as a short comment, if you have any questions we will not get to today or that are overlooked or something like that, we will get back to you, and you can also always drop us a line at support@cortana3d.com, of course. First question is, does this mean that in order to use RapidAuthor, Teamcenter has to have the Service Planner license? While the team is discussing, I also noticed that there's a delay in between you posting and us seeing the questions. So I hope we'll not have a significant delay. RapidAuthor for Teamcenter doesn't need a Service Planner license, but if you use Service Planner, we have features based on that. But let's see what the team has to add. We get to the second question right away. I can already start reading it. For Teamcenter manufacturing import, is it possible to specify different viewpoint orientations for different steps? The second question overtook the first one. Let me look at the comments. Rapid Generator is not able to determine which orientation should be applied to which step, so that is not possible. The viewpoint orientation is specified once in the import profile and then applied to all steps. Let me know if this answers your question. By the way, as a comment, as far as I remember, in this Q&A section, you cannot post comments to your own questions. If something is not clarified, feel free to post a second question. And regarding the Teamcenter Service Planner license, we do not have dependencies on other licenses, but if you have Service Planner, our integration is available to you. So what that means, RapidAuthor for Teamcenter includes functionality for Service Planner. If you use Service Planner, you can make use of it. If you do not, there's no problem. There's no dependency for RapidAuthor for Teamcenter. Very good. What Teamcenter licenses are actually required to use RapidAuthor? No additional licenses for specific Teamcenter modules are required. You need RapidAuthor for Teamcenter and Teamcenter. You need a matching version, of course. There's a compatibility matrix. We are relatively flexible with RapidAuthor for Teamcenter when it comes to the Teamcenter versions, but it's defined via maintenance availability and stuff like that. But you don't need separate licenses on Teamcenter side. We quickly look at that one. Could you elaborate on the numerous improvements for import of S1000D data modules? Is this detailed in the release notes for further review? Team, if you can check if we go into more details in the release notes, that would be helpful. I don't actually remember if we list the various improvements. I thought someone might call me out on that. We need to summarize some of the features and groups of features we have in the webinar time for every release, but usually we do go into detail on the release notes, of course. And if there's any additional questions that you still have after checking out the release notes, send us a message and we will get to that. Let me just check if there's anything below here. MyJT data has tables as PMI objects, and RapidAuthor 14.3 doesn't import them. Has this been fixed? Yes, is a good answer. PMI table import has been added in RapidAuthor 23.12, and in RapidAuthor 24.06, import of all other remaining PMI types has been implemented. This is what we were referring to on one of the slides. But yes, that should be covered now. It's a bit difficult that it decides itself what to expand and what to collapse in that list, but we'll manage. Any other questions? Here's another question. The Teamcenter import produces geometry of poor quality. I have generated JT with NURBS data and set the highest NURBS quality in the import profile, but the result hasn't changed. Why is that? Let's see if the team has direct responses to that. But what we can always do if you're not happy with the results after the import is, in case you have a sample data set that you can share, we're happy to have a look at specifically your situation. Just as a general comment. Do you support integration with manufacturing process planner in Active Workspace? I'll let the team add to that, but to my knowledge, in Teamcenter for Active Workspace, the focus is on EasyPlan, which is supported. If there's, I haven't used manufacturing process planner with Active Workspace, maybe there's an option. Regarding the poor import result, if your JT data is in XDB-rep format, that was not supported previously, and the tessellated representation of the imported data was being read. So the NURBS quality setting in the profile was not respected. That makes sense. So this might actually be covered by our improvements to our support for XDB-rep in 2406. As Sergey posted here, in RapidAuthor 2406, proper import of XDB-rep has been implemented. So now the quality of geometry is generally better and corresponds to import profile settings. That might actually be something that is solved with 2406. But if you run tests, please feel free to reach out and let us know if that works or not, and we can have a look together. Let's look at the response here first. Yeah, 2412. We have been in contact with the EasyPlan team for quite a while now, but it's not only up to us when the functionality is available, or the integration in that case is available. So for Active Workspace, EasyPlan is the module and will be supported in 2412. I believe we have already seen that, so this is not. This will work in 2412. And the next question, is it possible to open multiple illustrations in a single instance of your 2D editor? And the second question, is there a new release of RapidAuthor UniView as well? Or is it just the authoring tool? So Rapid Manual, Rapid Catalog, etc. We check with the team if there's any changes to solo UniView components. Regarding multiple illustrations, the support for multiple open documents will be implemented in Cortana to the Editor Pro for version 24.12, which is the next release. As you can see, the new Cortana 3D Solo API with the version 2.5.1 has also been released. In general, we tend to update all of our components, product components in the suite for every release, but they will have more or less changes depending on the module. Any other questions? Let me make sure we didn't miss a comment we haven't looked at. That's fine. Anything else you're interested in or want clarification on? Yeah. When will we see the recordings on YouTube? Do you know when the recording will be ready, team? And will this be uploaded to YouTube directly? Tomorrow. They take a while until the recordings are ready, then we will transfer them and make them available directly. So if you have any colleagues who didn't have time today for the webinar but might be interested in what's new, you can just refer them to the recording once it's ready. Any other questions you can already see, team? Not sure how long the delay is. There we go. Could you please point to the document link for publishing S1000D as HTML? You mean in the documentation? Let's see if the team has a response to that or follow-up questions. A follow-up question for Solo API. Will the new model be backwards compatible with the new Solo API or vice versa? So is there any incompatibility between Solo API and previous versions of RapidAuthor, I suppose? Of course, as you can imagine, we generally try to be backwards compatible wherever possible. I don't actually expect any new features of the Solo API to not be compatible with older versions. Yeah, that's a bit, this is what I meant earlier. It's a bit, it's not ideal that we cannot post follow-up comments here, but let's have a look at the question. I don't know if the request is for the demo archive or for documentation. But by the way, if you, I think I mentioned that at the start, obviously, if we cannot cover all your questions today, or there is follow-up questions we don't have time for today, or if you're like me and can think of the best question ever right after hanging up, contact us afterwards. Not a problem at all. Let's see at the backwards compatibility. Yes. Solo API is backwards compatible, but not vice versa. I hope that answers your question. I missed the first 10 minutes. Are there any news for AR VR? I have a guess on why you missed the first 10 minutes. Today, no specific news related to augmented and virtual reality. As you know, we do have a simple viewer to show the capabilities of the exact output we have in RapidAuthor, and this guy is mostly Rapid Manual for display in augmented reality. We have a small iOS viewer application for more complex augmented reality use cases with visual tracking, object tracking, for integrations with complex systems, etc. We do work with partners like TeamViewer. If you have any other specific questions regarding augmented and virtual reality, please let me know. Happy to have a separate discussion on your specific use case. I hope I don't miss. There's a new comment. Rapid Manual, Rapid Catalog, and Rapid Text when working with S1000D specifications publish HTML by default. Let me know if you have follow-up question, or let us know. You can write a message to support@cortana3d.com if you have follow-up questions regarding publication of S1000D. I hope I'm not missing comments here. Questions we should all see. I think we got all of them, apart from ARVR. Very good. We do have a couple of minutes. If you have any other questions or follow-ups, don't hesitate. Another question. Will you add S1000D specification for work instructions? I let the team discuss that. And while we're waiting, do you have any documentation on the compatibility between Solo API versions and RapidAuthor versions? Pretty sure we have. Let's wait for a comment from the team. Maybe we have an overview. It's very straightforward. So you mean an old Solo API version with the newest release of RapidAuthor, or vice versa, as discussed before? That will probably be easy to answer. Excellent. I have a vague memory of a table giving you an overview of the compatibility. If you contact us on support@cortana3d.com, for instance, or via the webpage, or directly, if you're already in contact with one of the team, where we can share this information with you directly. It's not a secret at all. I just think it's not published on the website, if I remember correctly. Very good. We have about 3 minutes left in the webinar. Let's see if we can get a comment regarding S1000D spec for work instructions. But other than that, if you have any other questions that might still be not shown for us or that we don't have time for today, we will get back to you afterwards. S1000D specification supports S1000D schemas like procedure. So the question is what you're looking for specifically. Let me check that one. In S1000D, you can only use procedure schema to illustrate work instructions. You can also use learning schema. Rapid work instructions is, as you probably know, a custom specification that we have used for quite a while. And is not supported in S1000D. You do that differently in S1000D. If you can give us an overview of your use case, we can probably have a separate discussion about that. But no work instructions spec directly for S1000D. To keep it S1000D conform. Very good. With the delay, we will probably not have time for more questions and answers. So if you have any questions, contact us afterwards. And again, for the people who might have joined late, the recording will be available very likely tomorrow. We will send you a link and you can share with your colleagues who might not have been able to make it today. Good. Then I would say, I just double check if there's no additional comments that are not shown for me. I think we got to all of them. Yeah, perfect. Let's do that. If you have any specific scenarios you want to talk through and are not quite sure how the new version, or for that matter, an older version of RapidAuthor is best used to handle those, let us know. Happy to discuss directly. S1000D is becoming more and more popular with customers, so it would be good to have. By the way, as a very high-level comment, this is also something we do notice. We have one of our focus areas in terms of industry is aerospace in general, and S1000D is quite ubiquitous there, and a lot of our customers put focus on S1000D. We will always try and support as much of S1000D as possible. So if there's anything missing in your use cases, let's discuss. Good. Then with a couple of seconds left, I want to thank you all for your interest and participation, and talk to you on the next webinar latest. Thank you all. Bye.